Good morning, church. I hope you've had a good week so far. I hope yesterday your week got off to a good start as we were reading in John chapter 9. Yesterday in John 9, we saw the story of Jesus healing a blind man. And after he healed this blind man, the Pharisees really just lost their minds. I mean, they didn't know if he was a demon. They tried to accuse Jesus of all these different things, and they couldn't really nail down what they thought. They were arguing among one another because they said, well, if he was a demon, he couldn't have healed this guy. But then they said, well, he healed this guy on the Sabbath, so he can't be God. And they're just in a big fit because of Jesus healing this blind man. And today we are reading John chapter 10, which comes right after what we read yesterday. So we're going to read today John 10, verses 1 through 21. And in these verses, we see Jesus make a claim where he says, I am the good shepherd. And so today in our reading, we're in John 10, 1 through 21, and we're going to look at this statement that Jesus makes that he is the good shepherd and kind of pull a few different truths out of this about Jesus himself. And so Jesus starts us off by talking about those who enter through the gate the right way and those who climb over the wrong way. And he says, he who enters the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the gatekeeper opens. The sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. So the sheep know the voice of the shepherd. The sheep know who their shepherd is. As Christians, as followers of Jesus, as sheep to him, the good shepherd, we can know who the one we're following, and the one we're following is Jesus. He is the biblical Jesus that was God, that is man, both fully. We can know who our shepherd is. Also, as we move throughout this passage, we see that Jesus says, I am the door of the sheep. And what we get from this is that Jesus is the way. Jesus is the way, as it said earlier, to the gatekeeper. This is just like Jesus making the claim in John 14:6 that he is the way, the truth, and the life, that no one gets to the Father except through Jesus. And here again in John 10, we see that truth, that Jesus is the way to the Father, that we can only have salvation, we can only have eternity in heaven with God through salvation found in Jesus. Another truth we find in this passage is that Jesus is the good shepherd. Jesus is not just any shepherd, but he is the good shepherd. And in a world where we have so many things pulling for our attention and so many things asking for us to follow them, whether it's a movement or a politician or whether it's a certain sin that Satan is tempting us to follow into, we have tons of voices around us that are calling us to follow them. But Jesus is the good shepherd because Jesus takes us to the Father. Jesus is also the good shepherd because he laid down his life for his sheep. That's what he said in verse 11. He said, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. Verse 12, he who is a hired hand and not a shepherd, who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees, and the wolf snatches them up. He flees because he is a hired hand and cared nothing for the sheep. But I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. Jesus is the good shepherd because we belong to him. Literally, when we place our faith in him, we see that our old person has passed and new has come, and that we've been purchased with his blood, that we are God's. We are his children. And here in this passage, we are his sheep because Jesus laid his life down for us. He gave himself so that we can go to the Father, so that we can follow him as the good shepherd. But in laying down his life, Jesus points out something in this passage that I want us to notice, and that Jesus, in laying down his life, he did this voluntarily. It was not that Jesus was in some position where he was defeated and he was overcome where he had to die. But Jesus did this on his own accord. It says here in verse 16, I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life that I may take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down, and I have authority to take it up again. This charge I have received from my Father. See, Jesus chose to go to the cross. Jesus, because of what the charge he had received from his Father, he walked in obedience to God and decided to lay his life down. And this is such a pure example of the love that the Good Shepherd has for his sheep, because it was only by this laying down of his life that his sheep could come to the Father, that we could come to the gatekeeper, as it says here. And so today I just want you to be reminded that Jesus laid down his life for you, that Jesus is the only one worth following. He is the Good Shepherd, that Jesus knows you, and if you are a follower of him, then you know him and you know his voice. We have access to him. We have the ability through his Spirit to hear him and to understand him and to follow him. And Jesus voluntarily, because of the love he has for us, went to the cross and died. But as he said, just as he had the authority to die, he had the authority to take his life up again. Just as he died, he rose again for you and me. What a great example of love. What a great example of the Good Shepherd making a way for his sheep. And so I hope today that you're reminded of these things as you read John 10, verses 1 through 21. And I hope you have a great Tuesday, and I look forward to reading again with you tomorrow morning.